Hi everybody, my name is Jacob Arbogast. I am going to walk you through some of the Excel tutorials for the Cipherline sales program. I've been doing these courses for a number of years now, and I, just give you a little bit of my background. I got a finance degree from Chico State, and I also got an MBA, and then I've been doing these classes for a while. But before I started working for Chico State, I had a consulting business where I did data analytics for companies, and I did a lot of Excel work with that. So I have quite a bit of background in using Excel in the corporate for-profit type world. I've also used Excel quite a bit in my work at Chico State. I work in the advancement office on campus now. So we'll just walk through some basics. The way I'm going to organize these, it's actually going to be a series of videos in a playlist. And so Excel 1 and Excel 2 for the intro and for the more advanced courses. Excel 1 will be broken into segments. So 1-1 will be the first episode of the basics, and then 2-1 will be the first episode of the more advanced. And I'm not sure exactly how many episodes there will be, but it'll be put into a playlist, and you'll get sent the link to the whole playlist, so you can just watch straight through. If there's topics that you already know really well, you can skip those ones if needed. But you can watch straight through the whole thing if you want, and you can, since it's a recorded video, you can go back and rewatch any parts that may have been confusing to you. Also, there will be a live Q&A session on April 27th, so keep an eye out for more information about that. So without any further ado, we'll get into the basics. So this will be Excel 1-1, which is the just basic intro. So I'm sharing my screen here. I'm doing a little Zoom video. And I'll just kind of go straight through, and you can watch, how it works. So intro basics, not knowing where anyone's starting from, I'm going to be really basic just to get us started here. Excel's the green program, so I'm going to click on that to open it. When you first open Excel, it gives you some options. Yours probably looks slightly different. Mine is customized for me. I'll show you how to do that in a little bit. But yours might give you some options for templates that you could open. It could say blank workbook and like simple budget or something like that. We're just going to open a blank workbook. So when you open a blank workbook, you'll see a grid. Sometimes, well, when you do it, it'll be probably a different color, and I'll show you how to do that actually. So if you wanted, mine is kind of dark gray on the sides and on the top. If you go to File at the top, so the way that everything's organized is this is a ribbon. It's called the ribbon. It's got all the buttons for doing different things, and then you have you can go to different parts of it where the review, the view, the formulas, insert, and there's different buttons depending on what you want to do. Over here is File, which we're going to click on. You can go to Options. You can go to, well, in general, Office theme. My theme is dark gray because I work a lot at night and I like to have my screen a little easier on the eyes. But if you make it colorful, and then I'm actually hide that, oops, not that. Hide that one, there we go. If you hit OK, this is the standard color scheme for Excel. I prefer to keep mine dark because it's easier for me to see that way, but you can do whatever works best for you. So just to get a sense of the layout, the main part of the screen in Excel is the grid pattern here, which is your spreadsheet. It's organized into rows and columns. Columns go up and down, just like columns hold up a roof or hold up the top of a building. Columns. Rows go side to side, just like seated rows in a classroom. So we assign each rectangle on our spreadsheet an address, a name, and the name is going to be the letter and the number. And so if I click here, the letter is D because it's in column D, and the number is 5 because it's in row 5. So the cell, each of these rectangles is called a cell. The cell is D5, cell D5. If I click over here, that's H10. If I click over here, that's M10. Over here is E15, C8. So each of them have their own name, and none of them repeat, because if we, numbers we can go on forever. In fact, if I jump all the way to the bottom, it goes to row 1,048,576. So we can go, as far, and we could even add more beyond that if we wanted to. And if I go to the right, in fact, I'll go to Z, but then it'll just start over again at AA, AB, AC, and it'll keep going. And you could go all the way over to, let's see how far it goes. XFD is as far as it goes, but you could probably add more beyond that too if you wanted. So the idea is that every cell has a letter and number assignment, and that's how you'll tell if you're going to describe where you're working. If I were to later on in the series, actually, I'll say I'm going to click on cell B4. That means right here, and that's easier for me to say than just if I said I click here and not say where here is, then you have to look at the screen. But if I say, oh, I'm going to click on B4, you don't have to be looking at exactly what I'm looking at. You can be looking at your own project and know that I said B4 and see B4 on your screen. So it just makes things a little easier. Other basics of navigating Excel, this ribbon has different options for like font styles. So this is the same as all the Microsoft products, Microsoft Word, Microsoft PowerPoint. This is Microsoft Excel. You can change your font to, Times New Roman or Calibri or whatever. You can change your font size. You can make it bold, italics, underline. Those things aren't as common. Bold actually is somewhat common. Italicize is used a little bit. Underline, not so much as it would in like Word or something like that. You could also change your font color, and you can change the fill color, which is not used as often in Word, but in Excel, fill is used quite a bit. And if you wanted a cell to be a certain color, you could change the fill. So I typically use yellow to highlight something. If I wanted to highlight a particular piece of information, I would highlight it yellow so that it's easy to see. If it was a really good piece of information, I might highlight it green, or a really negative piece of information, I might highlight it red. But for the most part, I highlight yellow to draw the user or the reader's eyes to what I want to show. So that's a couple things you could do there. Most of what Excel is good at is with numbers. And so a lot of times you want to format your number to be a certain style. So in this number box right here, you can do different kinds of numbers. So in cell A1, I'm just going to type 100 for right now. So 100 is a number, obviously, but it can be formatted in different ways. It could be $100. In that case, it says 100.00 and a dollar sign. If I change this to dollars in my number square, it could be 100%, but because I made it dollars first, 100 as a percentage actually comes out to like 10, what is it, 100,000 or 10,000% or something. 100% is actually the number 1 as a percentage, right? Because 0.5 would be 50%, 0.25 would be 25%, that kind of thing. If I make it a comma, then what that does is it puts in a number, but not a dollar. So there's a decimal point. So if I were to put in 1,000 and make it a comma style, then there's a comma between the 1 and the zeros for 1,000, and then it's decimals. You also could add or remove decimals by using these two numbers, or these two buttons, I mean. The little arrow right here says decrease the number of decimals. Oops. And so if you press that and there's no decimals, then it won't do anything. If you press this one on the left, it will add decimals, and you can add as many as you'd like. There gets to be a point where Excel stops calculating that many decimals out, and it's not even that useful to have 50 decimal places. It's not. You don't need nothing you do will ever need to be that specific. If you go out 2 decimal places for most business work, you're fine. If you're a physicist, then maybe you go out 4 decimal places or something, or an engineer. But in our case, we're going to go with 2 decimal places because most of what we'll be working with are dollars. If you needed your content that's not necessarily a number, but maybe it's something else like a date or a time of day, fractions, those kinds of things, you can use those also with this dropdown. In our case, I'm using accounting functions or accounting style, and that's totally fine for what we're doing because this is going to be business focused. That's what we're doing. We're doing business. We're using Excel for business. So accounting is perfect for that. Great, so those are some of the basics of just what you see on the screen. These other options up here, say insert or page layout, we're not necessarily going to use those for the most part. We are going to use formulas, but we're not going to necessarily need to use the formulas tab because all of these things can be achieved in a different way. We will use insert later to insert charts and to do things with graphs, but for right now we won't be doing that. I just want to show you that that's an option. And then view is, you can see your page. So if you wanted to print, you could do a page break preview, which would show you the print area, or the page layout, which also would show you how the sheet could print. But we're going to stay normal for now. So that's just kind of the basics of how to open Excel, what things are available. I'll move forward with a series of videos in a playlist. You can just watch the videos. So the next episode will be how to get around in Excel and to do some basic data entry stuff. So, okay, thanks, and I'll see you on the next one.